All right. Well, let's jump in, everyone. We will kick off today's office hours, which is going to be for customer-facing teams and how we can actually show that value with the support data that we get from SupportLogic. So kicking things off, we'll start off with introductions. So thank you everyone again for joining. My name is Bree Padilla and I'll be your host for this office hour session. For those that don't know me, I am one of our senior customer success managers here at SupportLogic. I've been with the company for about 5-6 months or so, so still fairly new, but I'll be accompanied by my colleague, Max Green, who will be our moderator today. So Max, you wanna stop there and introduce yourself and say hi?
Yes, thanks, Bree. And yes, hello, everyone. My name is Max. I am also a senior customer success manager here at SupportLogic. Quite a few of you know me as I've been here for over 2 years, and excited to let Bree take you through the topics today, and excited to see how you then leverage this yourselves in your own day-to-day use of SupportLogic. So welcome, everyone.
Great, thank you, Max. So before we start, I just want to make sure that we set you all up for success. So I would love it if all participants could log into SupportLogic so you guys can follow along, because we're going to walk through a lot of different configurations in the platform in real time. And that way, when you're following along, coming out of this session, you'll be able to take advantage of all of the things we're going to be learning today and some of the use cases that we'll be talking about. So while we're on the topic of logging in, let's open up our first poll so that way we can understand how familiar the group is with SupportLogic. So let's kick that up and see how often do you actually use SupportLogic? And I can't see, did we get a chance to open that up? We did, here it is.
Yes,
Alrighty. Right. We'll give everyone a few minutes, or not a few minutes, a few seconds to put that poll. We don't need a few minutes on that one. Cool.
This is what I like to see, though. Look at this: 9 folks daily of those who put in their responses, 2 weekly and 1 monthly. Well, you weekly and monthly folks, hopefully after today, you'll be excited to leverage some of these new some of these use cases that we're going to cover and spend a bit more time in the platform.
Cool. All righty. Well, going into today's agenda, we're going to walk through a few different slides that kind of explain of what our goal here is today. We'll go through a little bit of the product walkthrough, and then we'll have some time at the end for Q&A. But if you do have any questions, feel free to use the chat. We want to make sure that all of your questions get answered in real time, and that we have the proper responses for you in the right time. So please leverage that all throughout the session. And then Max will be able to, stop me if needed to answer any of those questions as well. But whatever we don't get to in this session, we will follow up after this call and get those answers for you. So with that being said, let's jump right in. So today's session is targeted for folks who are responsible for managing a book of business, typically who have a group of accounts that they're responsible for and want to keep an eye to ensure that they're getting the best support experience possible. So today you'll learn how to take advantage of the data and insights that SupportLogic provides you with to improve the customer experience and drive business growth. So a few of those ways that we'll talk about is prioritizing customer engagements. So, based on the trends or pain points that we surface in SupportLogic in their support interactions or any feedback that customers have given. Second, provide proactive resolution on customer issues. So by leveraging SupportLogic predictions, this will enable you to address problems before they escalate, which could greatly enhance the customer satisfaction. Next one, drive expected customer outcomes and identify growth opportunities. This one I think is often an oversight, but the data in the that we are able to provide our customers with is actually really, at high value. So if you see a customer using a particular feature a lot or consider maybe some different challenges or trends that you see. You can also use that data to suggest maybe some premium features or other products that they could benefit from just by kind of digging into that data. Customer advocacy. So identifying satisfied customers who can become advocates for your brand. You can use that data that SupportLogic provides you with to find those customers who've had really great experiences and ask them to provide testimonials, become a reference, and participate in case studies, or even refer you new business. So there's a lot you can do with it. Last and certainly not least, surface the true voice of the customer, not only to yourself for your own awareness and use, but also to your internal teams like product or engineering. So you can use that feedback or that data to provide feedback to your teams based on different customer interactions and support issues. And overall, this can help really improve your product and services. So with that being said, Max, I think it'd be a great time to open our second poll. And let's ask our group here, how many customers are you currently assigned to or responsible for managing? I think this will be helpful for us to understand, the workload you all have and how we can get, very granular in our use cases on what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, it looks like we have a whole range here. Folks who manage and keep an eye on some less than 20 customers. We got 5 votes so far for that. We got 5 votes for more than 100 customers, right? Absolutely difficult to monitor at scale, right? And
Oh, yeah.
at scale. So a lot of interesting ways that SupportLogic data can be sliced and diced to get a feel for how those folks are doing.
Yeah, especially with CSMs or account managers that are responsible for customers that are going to be renewing. If you have 100+ customers, you're going to find a lot of value in today's content to get a little bit more efficient in getting ahead of the customer health. So great.
Well, let's not forget also technical account managers, right? Who might be responsible for, like within the support organization, who might be responsible for 5 or 10 critical customers, right? Or covering customers that have specific product lines or whatever that might be, right? A lot of opportunity there for leveraging these same use cases.
Absolutely. All righty, next slide. So today we're going to be focusing on a few key areas in the platform for today's session. You can expect us to walk through virtual accounts, and we'll talk a little bit about what these mean now, and we'll do a refresher as we dig into the product. But virtual accounts, for those that are not aware of what this is in SupportLogic, it actually helps you create a roll-up collection that will enable you all throughout SupportLogic to see customer information that is relevant to you. My customers and customer insights. So my customers will analyze and compare your full customer list to quickly identify, the key insights and key case metrics and monitor those at risk of churn. Customer insights, you'll gain a holistic view of your customer support experience and understand how you can incorporate key statistics, insights such as health score, all into your customer engagements. Backlog, customize your customer case list so you can pinpoint and swarm to the most critical issues first, or not actually, get into the cases, but at least have that visibility. And then last but not least, my alerts. So we'll teach you how to reduce fire drills from happening within your customer or your book of business and best utilize those resources with alerts. Now, the workflow on this slide are the initial steps you would want to take when first logging into SupportLogic to help you gain that awareness on your customer support experience, get ahead of escalations, and ultimately provide a more positive customer experience. We're going to walk through this together, so don't worry about the how just yet. But first and foremost, you'll want to, we'll talk about a little bit before we jump in, but you'll want to start by defining your virtual accounts. If you have a dedicated book of business, this will be all the accounts that you're assigned to. Some other scenarios that you might want to take into consideration are your key accounts. So maybe you segment them by ARR, the tenure of how long they've been a customer with your company, whether or not the account is at risk. Are they up for renewal? You know, maybe you have a specific support tier that your customer, purchased. Maybe you have internal segments that you guys follow, maybe location. There's so many use cases that can be applied here, but whatever you want to have special attention to is how you'll want to identify what accounts go into your virtual account. So once you've identified the list of customers you want to track in SupportLogic, you'll then want to create a virtual account, and that's going to be for that specific group of customers. Once you've created a virtual account, you'll be able to easily track and gain that visibility into your specific customers all throughout SupportLogic. If you haven't logged into SupportLogic before, you'll know going into the platform, you get to see everything. So, just to alleviate that very key focus that you want to go in and see for your particular group, that will be very critical that we have that set up. Lastly, by leveraging alerts, you'll be able to detect your customer sentiment in real time. So we'll notify you of your customers who are experiencing issues before they escalate. So that way you can work a little bit more efficiently and be that true advocate for your customers. Now, before we jump into the product, I want to open up one last poll. Our last poll, I want to kind of gain, some insight into the group here. See how do you currently use support data in your customer interactions or not? So let's ask the group that. Cool, we got our responses trickling in. Cool, so it looks like we have some experience with using support data in our interactions. Like it.
It's interesting. This is, for everyone to think about a little bit more, right? Support is absolutely the front line of the way your brand and your company engages with their customers, right? Like, yeah, you have account managers, AEs, customer success managers, but the people who often talk to customers most often are absolutely your support people, right? And so highlighting what those interactions mean, what they're like, the experience that the customer is having there, can really empower the other teams in your organization who work with customers at renewal time, right? Customer success managers in their conversations with customers. Like, there's so many opportunities there to leverage the support data and experience that your customers are having for other conversations. So excited. Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's jump into our demo environment. And let me expand my screen here. So as I mentioned earlier, it's best to have your instance of SupportLogic open so you can follow along. And if you have any questions, please, again, leverage the Q&A section to the right chat of the window. So jumping right in. When you first log into SupportLogic, you should be greeted with this console page right here. This is an overview of cases that had any recent activity in the time period shown above here. So just for awareness there. But as someone who's not actively working cases, we're not going to spend too much time in this area of the product. But the first step, like I said in our last slide, is going to be walking through the creation of a virtual account. So in order to do that, you can scroll on down to Customer Management, and we are going to click on Virtual Account. So we kind of talked about it earlier on the previous slide, but those who might not be familiar with what a virtual account is, virtual accounts are used to track specific customers that can be used to filter lists of cases in queue or used to filter any of the various pages in the platform. And the filter, again, is so you can see what is only relevant to you. So when we go to create a virtual account, you'll see two sections here. You'll see virtual groups and virtual accounts. Now, virtual groups, we're not going to dig in too much today, but just for your awareness, virtual groups are going to be a roll-up collection of virtual accounts. So this would be maybe a good use case if you have a customer that is fairly large with different entities and you have everything separated. But today we're just going to focus on virtual accounts. So in order to create a virtual account, you'll want to create a virtual account by clicking this button. When you click that button, you're going to have two options: one, global account, or personal account. Now, the difference between the two is global is going to be visible to all users within SupportLogic, whereas personal is only going to be able to be seen by the user who creates it. Best practice and something that we often recommend to our customers is creating a global account, because if you ever have a time where you're out of office or have a colleague that's covering you, they'll be able to easily use that filter as well and see your specific book of business and everything that you're responsible for. So for today's purposes, we're going to create a global account, but feel free to use or create a virtual account based on your own needs and workflows. Second step here, we're going to create a name for this global account. For me, I'm just going to put Breeze Accounts. And you can name this however you wish. If you, just name it to whatever you feel is appropriate and is easy to find for your accounts, so you'll know that it's yours. The third step here, we're going to search for our customers that we want to include in this virtual account. Now, keep in mind, if your setup is not fully configured with all of the accounts for whatever reason, you may have to work with your admin to pull those in, but for the most part, everything shall be there if they have open support cases or have ever had open support cases. Now, when you first see this screen, you can start typing a customer name. Our demo environment is full of football teams, so I'll be able to go ahead and quickly add them in one by one. Now, most of our customers have a laundry list of data in SupportLogic. So to easily filter and see only account names, you can click on this filter button, uncheck individual reporter, and have only individual accounts selected. That way you can see just solely those accounts. So for our Taylor Swift fans, let's add the Chiefs. And we can do Cowboys. Let's see who else. We'll add these ones in. And then now that I have all of my accounts selected, I can go ahead and create an account or virtual account. Once that is created, you'll be able to see it somewhere in here by alphabetical order. And everything is created. Now, if I ever want to go back and add more, I can always go in and edit. If I want to start over, delete it, so on and so forth. So now that we've created this virtual account, what do we do from here? The next thing that we'll do is we're going to actually go back to the navigation menu and scroll up to My Customers. So let's go ahead and click on that. If you've never used SupportLogic before, specifically around My Customers, you'll have a blank screen just like I do. So this will be a table view that includes a number of different data points, and we'll kind of go through that as we go through getting our virtual account in here. So when we first get to the screen, we're going to go ahead and click on Add New Favorite. Now you could enter every single account one by one, but something cool here is we can actually type in our virtual account. Click on that, and we'll have a holistic view of all of those accounts that I have as a part of my virtual account. Oops. And now, instead of adding them one by one, I can actually expand this and be able to see my customers on an individual level. So you can see here, all of these accounts that I'm responsible for are going to be in a single view, and you can see it at a glance. What is the overall sentiment? How many escalations do they have or had in the past? Every single item here that you see, you can click in and drill further. So if I want to see all of these new cases, I can. But you can also have the ability to drill into the account itself by clicking on the name. And now what this is going to do is take you to two distinct views. So you can see up here we have our health score and we have our customer insights. For right now, we're going to focus on the health score and we'll dig into the insights a little bit after. But the health score view is intended to be a holistic snapshot of what's going on with the account, which takes into consideration a number of different factors you can see here. And to be clear, this is AI and ML. So at a glance, if you look at this and you disagree with something that's being shown, you can drill in a little bit further, make your assessment. And if you still don't agree with it, you can actually click thumbs down and give that feedback to SupportLogic. That will initiate our team to take a little bit closer look at it and make any adjustments if needed. Now, how do you know whether or not your assessment will be true or not? Obviously, based on your experience with a customer will be a factor, but you can also see in this little tooltip here how we actually calculate that score to better understand and be able to give us a little bit better feedback based on your experience, as well as how we're calculating this. Now, as I said, each and every single one of these tiles you can drill in, you can open it up, understand what cases are being contributed to the specific tile and data that's being surfaced. So, what I kind of like to do here before going into my customer calls is just taking a quick glance here, understanding, maybe the past few interactions and being able to go into my customer conversations with this information readily available. So not only do I come prepared to those conversations, but my customers also automatically trust me, knowing that I know what's going on with their account. And the cool thing is I don't have to spend too much time because this view gives me a really good idea of what's going on. Now, moving along to insights here. This view will give you a little bit more of a comprehensive view with key statistics and insights. And it's going to be specific to this account because, again, it is towards just a specific account. Now, the layout is the same regardless if you're viewing an individual or virtual account, but the basic layout will include this date range selector. So if you want to drill into a very specific time frame, you can do so. I often like to look at this by quarter or year to date, depending on my conversations. So typically when I'm going into a QBR or outcome review, I'll want to look at year to date. Whereas if I'm going into like a monthly check-in or just haven't met with a customer in a while, I'll probably look at it on a monthly basis. Now, everything here too is interactive, just like anything else in SupportLogic, but you'll be able to see a configurable case list. So this will again be dependent on the time range. You can see all of their current open tickets and recently closed, as well as being able to sort by a few different factors. To the right here, you'll have a few different charts. Now, when you're logging in, it'll look a little bit different for you depending on your setup. Because this is a demo environment, we'll see a whole bunch of different things here. But again, these are also interactive too. My favorite one to drill into is around the product. I can see what cases are related to which product type, and I can drill in to see what the sentiment is of that specific product for this specific customer. Now, each one of these charts, you are able to export as an image. And I like to use these charts, again, in my check-ins or in my QBRs to have a nice visual of kind of an overview of their support experience with us. So there's a lot of different ways you can, take this data back to your customers and how you present it. But my favorite thing is being able to create a nice visual presentation with it. And I love that SupportLogic is able to do that for me. The tabs at the top here are going to have different groups of cases together, grouped together based on escalation status, So new escalations, likely to escalate. Sentiments, needs attention, negative sentiments. We have our positive sentiments over here as well. And then engineering issues, product feedback. Something I like to drill into is the product feedback. So I like to go to this page and drill into these cases to see what are my customers, saying about the products? What feature requests do they have open? At my last company, we use Zendesk for our support ticket tool, and it was really hard for me to identify where the feature requests were when they were open. And I really appreciate that SupportLogic actually just gives it to me here in an easy click. I'm able to kind of just browse through that, understand where things are. Once I click into the product feedback tab, I can actually open the case itself and read through it if I need to just get a deeper understanding of, why did this customer open this feature request? How is it valuable to them? And, what can we do to kind of get this in front of the right teams for development? Now, going back to our overview page, the charts will update on the tab to something that I forgot to call out. So when you've selected it, so if I go to any other tab, oops, I'm thinking a date range. So if I go to any other date range here, sorry, these charts will automatically update as well. So you won't have to worry about anything being missed because everything again is going to be updated automatically for you all. Now, keep
If
in
I
mind,
can,
yeah,
if I can chime in real quick, for those of you who've been using SupportLogic for a while, there's actually been a very recent improvement to this page. So the date range that Bree was actually showing there, up until our releases that occurred earlier this month, this date range that you selected did not persist if you left this page and came back to it. It would always reset. So now when you select a date range here, if you select the last 6 months and you go to another page in the platform, you go look at some other accounts, when you do come back to this account, the date range will persist. So it'll be making it a little bit, it's kind of a usability improvement that our customers have been asking for a while that we got around to putting in this past month. So just keep that in mind when you're using this.
I did not know that. Thank you, Max, for sharing that. That is something that, people don't often think about, and it's actually a really big time saver. So that's something I'll be appreciating. But as I was saying, keep in mind, you're probably not going to be spending too much time in drilling here in your day-to-day with SupportLogic as, someone who isn't actively working cases. But I do want to call out here that it does allow you to get that holistic view for your customers individually. So like I said, I like to use this data and some of these insights in my check-ins, QBRs, renewal conversations, to really help paint that picture of their overall support experience. Now, let's talk a little bit more tactically of how you can use SupportLogic to keep an eye on what's going on with your customers in real time. So the next area of the product we're going to go to is backlog. So let's go ahead and click on that. Now, when you click on backlog, especially for one of your first times logging into this page or seeing this page, it's going to look a little bit different. Now, the backlog page is going to be a list of cases for your customers. The very first thing you're going to want to do, and to make this page more valuable for you, is to create a global filter, which we talked a little bit earlier when we were talking about virtual accounts. So in order to do that, this filter, a global filter, will give you that visibility just for what you want to see. And in this case, we just want to see our customers. So let's go ahead and click Manage on the top of Global Filters, and we're going to create a new filter. Now, because we are wanting to filter for based on our virtual account, we're going to click on over to Customers. Now, the same trick we did earlier, we're going to do here as well, and we're going to click on Filter, and we're going to just select Virtual Accounts, so that way we're not overwhelmed with all of the data that's in SupportLogic. So I am going to search for my virtual account, which is right here. and we're going to create that global filter. And I believe this one was it. And we're going to apply that. So now this view here, I'll be able to just see the cases for my dedicated customers. Now, why would we want to see this? What does this have to do with anything if I'm not working cases? Well, as a CSM, I just want to know for certain that my team is on top of certain tickets, maybe of those at high priority, and make sure that my customers on the flip side are responding back to my support team in a timely manner, right? As a CSM, it's a lot of middle management in between your teams and your customers. So this really helps give you that, quick and easy view to know that both parties are doing what they're supposed to in the right times. So I like to look at this, and maybe if my team or my customer needs a little nudge, I can go ahead and give that to them. This right here, I would say, is also another good use case. Is pretty useful for me when I go in and hop on a call with a customer, just so I can understand fully what is going on with them. Now, like I said, there are a few different use cases that we can apply here. Some of the ones that I like, and I'll walk you through how we create that, is here. We'll create a new view here, or a new list view for backlog. So maybe I want to take a look at response time. So we'll say customers with, and we'll incorporate attention score. No response by attention score. And keep in mind, there are a wide variety of use cases that our customers use, specifically for customer-facing teams. This here, I will say, is intended to go into the application. You'll have to go in and actually see this, but it also ties into alerts, which we'll be talking about shortly after this. But if you're like me and you like to actually go in and just double check and see how things look in a list view, this is going to be a pretty good view for you to leverage and take. Also, too, if you're not actively taking action or using alerts, also something good to go in right before you hop on a customer call and just having a quick glance at. So here we are going to filter cases by, where am I going? Actually, we don't need to do that. We just need to do attention score. And I shouldn't have put no response because it is going to include the responses, but ignore that. We'll go ahead and just look at customers by attention score. So now I can see all of my customers here. Didn't mean to click on that. And based on their attention score is how they're ranked. So Max, correct me if I'm wrong, attention score, higher the attention,
Correct. Yeah.
Higher the priority.
Yeah. So the attention score takes into consideration of a number of different factors. It looks at the response time back to the customer. Has this customer been waiting a little bit? Not just in this interaction, but in the interactions throughout this case in general. And it also looks at some of the sentiment signals, right? It's looking at it's looking at some of the signals like follow-up request, call request, customer saying they have a critical issue or expressing urgency, right? And it also does take into consideration priority. So when a case is opened and has a higher priority, say, than another case, the case with the higher priority will start with a higher attention score as well, right? And the attention score decreases over time as you are responding to the customer and addressing their issues and driving the case towards resolution. So, and you can always, when looking in an individual case, right, if you want more details on how the attention score is calculated, if you want to bring that up, just mouse over the score right there. And it'll show you some, it'll show you some details about the score and how it got to where it is, as well as you see the option to explore the factors. And this is new. Both of these views are new, actually. So if you were to click on explore factors right there, it's the other blue one. Yep. This will give you an idea of what the contributing factors are for the attention score. So this will just help you understand, give you a little explainability around how these things work.
Perfect. Thank you, Max. And while we're here, do you mind speaking to sentiment? That one is also another one that
Yes.
we heavily leverage in some of our customers as well.
Yeah. So sentiment a little bit different from attention score. One in that it starts the sentiment score starts lower, and excuse me, the sentiment score starts at kind of a neutral point around 70, right? And as it drops lower, the opposite of the attention score in a sense, that typically means that a customer is becoming more frustrated or upset. And it looks at slightly different some different signals more heavily than the attention score does. It looks at frustration, confusion, pure negative sentiment, right? Profanity, any number of distinct signals, often more emotional language versus the attention score, which looks at a little bit more procedural language, as well as, attention score takes into consideration response times substantially more than sentiment score does. So, and you can always click in to explore the factors there, and it'll give you a better idea of what's going on.
Perfect. Thank you, Max.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so as I was saying, I typically like to just go in here before a call. Typically, I'll use the customer insights page before going on a specific, or not a specific, a particular call with a customer. Whereas here, I'll do this before like reviewing my account health when I have to provide my leadership updates. So, understanding the customers that need attention, maybe customers by sentiment who are frustrated or upset. So that way I can get that true voice of the customer to make my own reporting of my customers as more pinpoint accurate as possible. So creating the list, you can do as many as you want. You can even organize these. It's the little things that excite me that I love to do in SupportLogic, but you can organize them, you can delete them. And again, just seeing this holistic view in an organized way to get a full understanding of what your book of business is like and how the health is. Now, kind of talking along the lines of these views, this is going to be a little bit more of a reactive motion for some of you that are managing your accounts if you're not working the cases, which leads me to the topic of alerting. So alerting, you can be alerted in these situations versus going into SupportLogic. So that way you don't necessarily have to log in every day or repeatedly to see what's going on, and we'll let you know on our own. So by creating alerts, or how you create alerts, we're going to go up a couple under workspace and click on my alerts. Now you'll see this screen here, and there's going to be a whole different options of conditions or fields that you can incorporate into this. We're going to walk through a little bit of a basic use case today, but this I challenge you all to kind of take with you and think back of maybe a little bit more prescriptive alerting conditions. Now, the conditions will cover a whole lot of ground, but once again, first thing, right, we created that virtual account. So any alerts that we create, we only want to be notified based on those specific accounts and based on certain conditions. So let's walk through that process a little bit. And now I'm going to create new alert. Now this is also new. We just actually released the ability to provide alerts on keywords. So if there are specific things that you want to be alerted on about your, about these cases, you can do so. But for our particular use case today, we're going to create a standard alert. We'll be brought to the screen, and you're going to want to name this. So for this case, I'm going to put freeze accounts likely to escalate. And so whenever I drag any of these conditions over here into this window, this is what's going to trigger the alert. So first and foremost, where is our escalation? So I want to get alerted every time I have customers under my responsibility that SupportLogic predicts that they're going to escalate. So now I have likely to escalate here. Under customer, I'll be able to search for my virtual account that we created earlier. And then from here, again, very basic use case, we're just going to keep it likely to escalate for my accounts. And again, you can add any other conditions to this as well. So maybe you want to get an alert for not only your cases that are, or your customers that are likely to escalate, but potentially maybe you want someone or one of those accounts if their attention score is fairly high or the sentiment is fairly low. So there are layers that you can add to it to get really prescriptive. But again, just for today's use case, we're going to keep it very minimal.
Brie, let's touch on one more thing here. If you scroll down to the payload section, right in the center of the alert. Yeah, scroll down here. Yep. What you'll see down here under the payload section, if you want to add additional context to the alert, you can click into the payload section. And if you'd go ahead and do that, Brie, just click into where it says optional and add a // and scroll down in this list here. You'll see you have the ability to add any of the custom fields and the values that are set for them tied to this particular case that's open with this customer. Then the alert, when you receive it, it'll contain all that additional context, right? So if you're alerting yourself based on certain conditions for the customer, right, and you want to know what priority that case is, what severity it is, right, what product line it's for, any number of different different values that could be of use to you when just trying to understand the state of that particular case for your customer, you have the option to do so. So keep that in mind. It's a handy little feature that just gives you more information.
You jumped ahead of me, but thank you, Max.
Oh, sorry. You were going to cover it.
But thank you. My voice needed a break. But yeah, so as Max said, you can set that up to have that visibility of whatever additional information you want. And also, too, when it comes to notification method, you can have the alerts sent to you via email, Slack, Teams, whatever your communication is internally. You also have the option to notify the case owner, but you also have the option to notify additional team members too. So for me, as a manager at my last company, I would have this theoretically set up for, myself to receive the alert, as well as that specific, team member or account owner, so to speak, getting these notified. But if you are just setting up the alert for yourself, then feel free to just keep it to you, and you can always adjust later. Now, kind of talking a little bit more about the payloads here. It's, again, by default, it's going to include those conditions that are standard that SupportLogic sends. So what customer it is, and then all the other alert conditions. But it'll also contain a link to the case in SupportLogic as well. So if you do get that alert via email, you can click in and it'll bring you straight to SupportLogic for you to kind of drill in and see what action you need to take, if any. When we say action, we talk about, or what we're talking about is, working with various team members, helping collaborate internally, just making sure that we're all on the same page and aligning to, our customer's resolution. Now, with the alerts, there's so many insights that it can provide you with. And, again, take action where you feel necessary. But it's just to kind of give you that trigger or alert to let you know something's going on with your customers. And you don't necessarily have to go into SupportLogic and figure it out. But at least you have that awareness and visibility. So you can come prepared when you engage with your customers. And make sure that nothing's getting swept under the rug. So with this, you can set it up to as much information as you want. Again, just a quick glance from here. And if you want to drill in further, you're able to do so. So kind of the key point here, it's really great to have visibility with those alerts and what's going on. And the more context you add, the more you can determine the right step from there, and so on and so forth. And that is it for our product walkthrough. But let me reshare my screen with our last few slides. And here's some key takeaways from today's session. So utilize SupportLogic automations or alerting to work more efficiently. Use our ability to detect and alert on customer sentiment, issues, churn risk likely to escalate in real time before they actually escalate or start a fire. Leverage all of this interaction or all their interaction data throughout the customer journey. So not just in, your check-ins, but also use it internally too. Help your product and engineering teams make the right decisions on how they evolve the product. Work with revenue generating teams to use this data and identify opportunities for growth or opportunities to, enhance the customer experience by further enablement. Also, too, you can identify reoccurring issues and trends. A lot of people get surprised with, a customer's experience or trouble that they've had with the product because they simply didn't have the insight or the data into the support experience. So there's a lot of key items here that you can leverage and incorporate and, make that customer experience better as much as possible, but also, too, help your company grow. We do have some resources here for you all that, covers a lot of the things that we went to today. Today's session will be recorded for you guys to kind of look back on and leverage, but also too, be aware that we have resources readily available for you if you don't want to watch a whole hour worth of content. But it doesn't stop here, you guys. We have not only our monthly office hours, but we launched our new e-learning academy. So we have a few different courses right now and more to come, but this will be a guided walkthrough, self-paced as well, to help you kind of refresh your memory on the different areas of the product. For customer-facing teams, I would highly suggest doing the end-user training because it walks you through a lot of the things we did today. But we also have our support portal. A lot of different knowledge-based articles in there that our team is, working hard to push out and update. So leverage it. There's a lot of good stuff in there, and I use it every day to learn about our product as well. And then yeah.
Oh, go ahead if you were going to cover one more thing, and then I was maybe going to have us answer just a few of the questions they asked. Were already answered in the chat, but maybe it might be helpful if we answer them out loud so some other folks can hear them also.
Absolutely. And then last but not least, our customer community. So we're still trying to grow this community. It's, finally getting some traction, but join us all in the conversation.
Awesome. So just briefly before we close out, there were a couple questions that came up within the chat. They were answered in the chat, but just wanted to highlight a few of them since I think they're definitely relevant to everyone, and you may not have all seen them. So just quickly, Ken asked, Ken Saint Arnau, sorry Ken if I butchered your last name. You asked what the difference between virtual groups and virtual accounts was, and when to use one or the other. And what a virtual group is a roll-up of virtual accounts, right? So a use case could be where maybe you have several members of your team who each have their own book of business, right? Who manage a group of accounts. They're creating their own virtual accounts. And as long as they set them as public, when you create a virtual group, you can just add those virtual accounts to that group. That way you're not having to add every single account individually there. So it's intended to, it's a usability thing intended to make your life a little bit easier. And then you don't have to maintain it either so much, right? Because the members of say your team who are maintaining the individual virtual accounts that have, their groups of accounts within them, as they change those or take one out or take one in, it's automatically reflected in your virtual group, which contains those, right? So that's kind of how you would leverage a virtual group versus a virtual account. Another one was Chris. You asked a question about how to add additional charts to the customer insights page. So the charts are set actually at the profile level. So assuming that you or someone else has access to edit profiles, the way that's actually done for those who have access to it, it might be your admin on your side or some individuals who have slightly higher permissions. If you click your profile icon in the top right of the SupportLogic UI, you'll see an option to edit profile. And once you select that, on that customer insights page, if you scroll down, you'll see a plus symbol next to it, which says add more charts, right? And by clicking that, it'll allow you to add additional charts based on other custom fields that have been ingested to SupportLogic, showing the breakdown of your cases based on those as well. So I think those were two of the critical ones that I think were relevant to everyone. So just wanted to share out the answers to those.